tonight. She's the one that's organised all this. Solidarity.
Hello. I can't actually see anybody, but cheers, Lynn. I want to start by saying thanks to Bootleg Social for providing us with the venue tonight, and thanks for the Blackpool Trades Council for supporting the event and the speakers that were arranged to come, and of course to Nathan Parker, Emma Taylor and TV Face, who are a postman. Well, the drummer is a postman from Lancaster and they're great to come and play for us. That's nice. So the Enough is Enough campaign is a fight against cost of living crisis, led by trade unions and local community organisations, such as food banks, tenant unions, trade councils and environmentalists. And it's about trying to build a labour movement and a grassroots organisation in the absence of a welfare state and a Labour government. And also, the reason for us doing it here tonight in Blackpool is to localise the event, because obviously it's been going on in cities, and it's to include people that maybe, you know, don't go to the city and stuff, and to try and do the same thing here in Blackpool that's going on in the cities. And also, it's the day of action tomorrow, where 3 trade unions are on strike. So the CWU, which is the postal workers, the railways, and the harbour, which is Unison and the domestic staff at the harbour. So obviously I am a postal worker, and I'm a rep for the CWU, which is a communication workers union, and I sit on the National Young Worker Committee, and I'm also an industrial relations rep, which is IR rep. So I started work at Royal Mail on Edward Street, which is just parallel to here, about 11 years ago, with some of the posties that are in the room tonight. There's a few at the back, I think. And at the time, my granddad said to me, that's a really secure job, it's reliable, a good pension, and at the time the hourly wage was double the minimum wage. But unfortunately in 2013, the Royal Mail was sadly privatised as a result of Thatcherite ideology, the financial crisis and austerity. So that has seen a deregulation of some of our traditional structures within the Royal Mail, and the inception of the gig economy, which means postal workers work on part-time contracts in some cases, and they're forced to compete for labour to work full-time hours so then they can afford to pay their bills, which is obviously very bad. But it's not quite 0 hours, so you know it's not quite there yet. But during the pandemic, postal workers kept the country going, as we all know. We delivered goods to people's houses so they were safe, and we put ourselves on the front line. We also put our families at risk, but the Royal Mail was recognised as the public service it is, which was good, and we were clapped on the doorstep as key workers. So while the postal workers were busy grafting and fulfilling their duty as public servants and showing social responsibility in local communities, the CEO, Simon Thompson, and his senior management team yeah, so while we were grafting and you know, showing social responsibility to the community, Simon Thompson was sat on his arse and he was just thinking about all the profit that he was making and rubbing his hands, and that was £780 million worth of profit generated throughout the pandemic during a global health crisis, off the back of our labour, and it was all just to kind of think about ways we could get the trade union out at the end of the pandemic. So postal workers and the CWU are now saying enough is enough to Royal Mail, and we are now in dispute because the business has refused to give us a pay rise. They are also obviously going after our IR framework and our agreements, and it's all just to try and create an Amazon-style working environment, and to get more profit for greedy shareholders. So this is bad news for the economy, bad news for workers, and it's also bad news for our local communities. What we need is a sustainable circular economy, sustainable contracts of employment, and sustainable jobs for life. So we will be on the picket line tomorrow, and we will be on the picket line for 19 days throughout the autumn-winter period. So yeah, it'd be great if some of you would come and support us on the picket line. If you don't know that much about trade unions and whatnot, if you follow Strike Map UK, that'll tell you where all the picket lines are. Also, if you're not in a union, please do join a union. And if you want to know anything more about unions, you can come and speak to me at the end. And also do try and get to the Trades Council protest on the 12th of November, which is a follow-on from this event. Cheers, thanks.